So tonight we want to feature a lecture by Henrik Clarke, and it is called The Legacy of Marcus Garvey. We want you to listen to carefully what this man, Henrik Clarke, the late Henrik Clarke, have to say about the legacy of Marcus Garvey. A very interesting analysis and important documentation about Marcus Garvey. And you know, say, we do things different all the while. Yes, we do things different from most ones. When them do things, them do it one way. When we do things, we do it many different ways, but it lead to the same way. So, we want to tell you that, well, we can't tell if you put your tape on cock again, because tape not ever, tape not ever out again, you know. Tape them out still. I wonder who have tape out their tape program again. Nobody that tape program again after the tape. Cassette. No, cassette done with a CD. Not even CD, you know, we can't talk about CD again. Computer style. So, yeah man, we want you tune in, because we are say, the only way we can do it on the radio is do it like how we are doing it. So no, we don't know no way else to do it. You understand? We figure say, if we have the microphone in our mouth 4 hours to one night, we have to do something to make it elevate and motivate and wake up the conscience and the consciousness of those who is listening. And tonight is no different. You know, say, always them are going with, you know. If them did really have Marcus Garvey as a serious part of the whole program of redemption and liberation for African people, Jamaican people, them wouldn't catch over it, so, you know. No, because them keep things, you know. And when I say them not keep nothing, you know, but look on where them keep. You know, every year them put something in a library down a Centennial, so. I don't know how much money them spend on that, but obviously it don't look like how much money, it look like no money. Maybe them give the big officials them per day. To come down, they come sit down. You know, but look how we go on up here, so. I RFM here, so, Sunday. And the thousands of people who gather to come celebrate just because we call them. We call them to order. And you know the other day, last year, yes, 1 and some years ago, we call the people them to order for the Coral Garden atrocity. And we march through Kingston to Alfred Tree, and the thousands of people that gather to really recognize the importance of visibility. Guys, visibility is very important, you know. If a man not see, you know, and not hear about you, if there's no way he can evaluate and create a kind of image around where you want him to do. That's why Marcus Garvey said propaganda is a very important tool and necessary for spreading this doctrine of liberation and freedom. So, what we are saying is that we know, right as all, the power of the microphone and the power of the airwaves. And we use it in the most effective way we can. And we give thanks to the management and the owner, our owners, whosoever, for really understand and appreciate what radio is supposed to do in a Jamaica. Because over the years, we see like them want to maintain the same status quo like them at BBC and CNN. And even BBC and CNN go into places to really unravel mysteries and unravel this and unravel that. Radio is not just for entertainment. Radio is also for information and education. So we don't wait till people bring news come give it. We make the news. You understand? And Marcus Garvey is deserving of news. So when you hear we say 1 month on this program, Marcus Garvey, because we know say it's important that we do that. It's important that we spend some time for Marcus Garvey for 1 month. And that no means say we're going to stop after 1 month, you know, because you know say our mantra on this program is If you have no confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence, you have won even before you have started. And you see, anytime we repeat that over and over, you find say, other people, it can't come out of your brains. That Marcus Garvey talk about propaganda. You see, the more we say that, is the more an next person out there are going to repeat it, and the more and it just indelible in your ears continuously. If you have no confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence, you have won even before you have started. Are some serious, serious words to live by the man called Marcus Garvey, who has been recognized as one of the most important philosophers of the 20th century. Marcus Garvey is recognized as one of the most important philosophers of the 20th century. So we don't go create singers and runners and all these things. Philosophers, Marcus Garvey, say, if you have no confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence, you have won even before you have started. These words are words to live by. And years me I live by that day, mantra day. Believe you me, you talk about prayer. Words to live by. And years me I live by that day, mantra day. Believe you me, you talk about prayer. We don't go down on the knee and pray to no imaginary, invisible craziness, superstitious madness. No, we're not doing that. Never find I kneeling down and clasping hand and praying to no imaginary force. No. We have words that was given to us by men, great men of color, that we know existed and exists today. That when we say what they say, we know that it is coming from and where it is coming from and who it is coming from. I usually, some man start quote things to me, and when me ask them, so who said that? And a man just say it in the Bible. I say, then, oh, you know who said? Who said that? Who write that? Him can't tell you who, because nobody don't know who yet. A man tell you, say, well, it's inspired by God. If you don't know who write it, and you don't know who the man would do it, all you know that it's inspired. All you know is inspired. What make where the man who write the Psalms or the men them who write the Psalms more inspired than our singers here today? Because when you listen to the music of reggae music, you hear inspiration just a flow. Just a flow, so. And we get inspired by things around us and in us. Some people get inspired by the same word in the Bible too. But we know and we understand. We're not going to make them tell you about, well, when I talk for everybody, you know, me not going to make them tell me about no wisdom from above. And me come and look for above. And I talk about God take the case and I look for divine intervention. The only divine intervention cometh from our ability to discern what is wrong and make it right in ourselves. We have to use ourselves. And when I say ourselves, we are talking about O-U-R, ourselves. We organize ourselves into a force that is necessary to bring about change in ourselves. Because if you can't change yourself, it's usually you're going to try to change the world. Because if you change yourself, the world will change. You have some man around up and down the place that try to change the world and I try to indoctrinate the world. And then him family and him personal relationship is not working out. You have to work on that first. You have to work on the communication with your children. Before you come talk about you want to work on communication with the world. Joining organizations and community this and community that when you can't even help yourself. Confidence in self is what is necessary and important. And that message should be right across the board. When man talk about mantra, our Father with art in heaven, if you have no confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. Because life is one race, you know. With confidence, you have won. Even before you have started. Man, them words there, trust me, man, resonating in my consciousness. No matter where me there, where me go. And we keep repeating it because Marcus Garvey tell us that we must repeat these things continuously. Marcus Garvey said that. Don't just say the thing. Well, that's why sometimes we play a tape over and over. And I say, man, go there and say, boy, I'm hear that tape already. But guess what? You see when they hear that tape already, you have 500 man out there who never hear it yet. And look how long ago me did play it. When we play it, I saw a man call me all miggle morning. I tell me, say, Muta, you see that tape the way you play, boy, I'm like a copy of it, you know. And then yet still the man who did hear it already, you know, when him hear it again, you know, him hear something him never did hear before. Marcus Garvey tell me about that propaganda. That is how them catch you. And we know the power of that. That is why a man take out advertisement on radio and him not just play it one time, say what 5 different spots. And him want the spot them when him know people are listening. That's why when you look on the television, you watch all that you say sponsored by. And you see the advertisement that go right over and over and over and over. And then when you look all over there, so you see the sign mark over there, so the sign over there. So it's propaganda that. And propaganda seep in your conscience and your consciousness. Sometimes you go in a supermarket and believe say you are choose. It's not you are choose. It's the advertisement choose for you. And the advertisement is into your consciousness. So a lot of things that we do today, a lot of it is not we of our own free will is doing it. But that will was given to us through propaganda. When we repeat certain things and we don't know this thing. But some people die for things that they don't know about. It's propaganda cause that. And Marcus Garvey recognized the power of propaganda. And we must use propaganda. The politicians, them use it every day in them lying lips and tongues. The person use propaganda in them lying lips and tongues. Promise you good living when you die. And none of them never dead yet to come tell you how that go. And the politician promise you good living when you're alive. And no care how long you live, the same politician just go on and tell you lies. So, and sometimes your living condition will get worse. So we are saying, Marcus Garvey, right through and through, the little man from St. Anne, the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, more relevant today than that book what them call the Holy Bible. We have said that non-apologetically. Non-apologetically, because if we would read the philosophy and opinions like how most Jamaicans think they are reading the Bible, we would have more confidence in ourselves. We wouldn't see anything in it to tell us that we were born in sin and shaped in iniquity. What a piece of audacity. We were born in sin and shaped in iniquity. We would never see nothing like that in the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey. Because when I read the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey, it uplifts a race of people that is domiciled on these former slave plantation islands. And it is lifting us up. Him say, up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will. You know when somebody wills something, what that mean? It's like magic. Up, you mighty race. Marcus Garvey claim that. You mighty race. You think Bible will tell you that? Up, you mighty race. It will tell you about Israel, chosen people of Israel. You have to get in line with Israel to be chosen of God. Because one guy over there so I tell you, say, you must cut out the tip of your penis, circumcise. And the next guy over there so I say, circumcision is not one of flesh, but circumcision is one of heart. There's neither male nor female in the sight of the Lord. And them tell you about. Marcus Garvey say, black man, on kneel down and pray too much, get up. Right down a water here time make that statement there. Marcus Garvey said that. Marcus Garvey said, black man, go up on his knees and pray too much. He must rise up. So him say, up, you mighty race. Accomplish what you will. Them should have the philosophy and opinions in the church, them. Them should have put the philosophy and opinions in the church. Yes. Because Marcus Garvey was a humanitarian who understand the humanity of all man. But when him look on the world, him say, but look on this though, how come black people that the lowest elm? Who these people who gave the world science, who gave the world all these philosophies and all these things, how we reach this all? Him say, up you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. Now, black people, are our turn. We can't make Marcus Garvey just a gosso and a gosso. And I know 1 year thing, you know. Every year we come do what we are there, so like what we do Sunday, you know. And I know 1 year thing, you know. It's a natural progression of the human species to find freedom and liberation. And there are black print that is laid down by our ancestors. And one of our ancestors is Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Marcus Mosiah Garvey say, look here man, race first. And race first don't mean say you're against other races. But if you see your brother and a stranger drown, you go and go throw the rope to your brother first. That is instinct. Human instinct. If Jamaica and Trinidad are play football match, instinctively you're going to cheer for Jamaica. That is a human instinct. It don't mean say you don't like Trinidadian. It just means you are instinctively saying nationalism to you is most important. So whether the team can play good or not, you're cheering for them and then them lose, you curse them. It just so it go. So when Marcus Garvey say race first, he must say black people, look out for yourself first before you can save the world. Because everybody else look out for themselves. Marcus Garvey say, a people without a knowledge of them history is like a tree without root. Black people walk up and down and don't even know I came about nothing more than say, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And darkness was upon the face of the deep, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. And on the 6th day, make a man out of clay. And when I want to turn that clay there in a diamond, just like how them claim to them put tan upon our head, Rasta man head. And now that tan has become a crown. And we don't give up over the years. And with all the cussing and the mocking and the jeering, with all we talking about Marcus Garvey, Emperor Haile Selassie I. And we still there, I carry the load for black people in all the mocking and the scanning. We continue the journey and the process. Black people, wake up to the reality. Marcus Garvey live. And we don't have no illusion. We don't have no illusion. We don't worship no man. But we praise the works of all the men who came and the women who came in honor of our liberation and the struggle for a just cause for every man per earth. So Marcus Garvey say, race first. Up you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will.
For all your electrical and plumbing needs. 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 For all your electrical and plumbing needs.
This is the cutting edge, and I refer, as we say, we want to play this lecture by Henrik Clarke, and it is called The Legacy of Marcus Garvey. We want to listen to it carefully. Carefully. You understand? So we're going to start it right at this point.
Color away their color preferences and rolled in on their prejudices. Knew that Jamaica was one of the most color stratified islands in the Caribbean. England had made it so. All of this has to do with something. If Marcus Garvey were alive today and ran for election in Jamaica, he would lose. If Marcus Garvey were alive today and ran for election in Bedford-Stuyvesant, he would win. Tell you something about the temperament of the Caribbean mentality at home and the Caribbean mentality away from home. A few years ago, Caribbean scholar Keith Henry wrote an article for me when I was editor of Freedom Ways called Tigers Abroad and Meek Moses at Home. I wouldn't publish it. I said it's a good article and it's absolutely honest. But if I publish it, somebody will have my head. But it's honest, it's true. So why don't you publish it? See, it reveals something that none of us are ready to face. And this summer, last summer in Barbados, on an intellectual tour, I delivered a lecture called The Caribbean Mind Away from Home, dealing with the fact that the finest minds that the Caribbeans ever produced never could function in the Caribbean. Marcus Garvey, and that the best minds who attempted to function in the Caribbean were killed in the Caribbean. The last example was the great Walter Rodney, killed in the Caribbean. And their finest minds function outside of the Caribbean, and that Black America became the beneficiary of some of these finest minds, starting with Prince Hall, who built the Black Masons. And there, in Barbados, one evening, before I made the speech, I was speaking to an aristocratic woman, and I said that tomorrow I will speak on the Caribbean mind away from home, and I will start with Prince Hall, and I will end with George Lammon. And she jumped as though I had said something about her mother that was unpleasant. She said, "You dare mention the name of George Lammon on this island?" I said, "He's only the finest literary figure Barbados has ever produced." She said, "That's horrible, man. He dared to say that tourism is horrorism." I said, "What else is it?" I said, George Lamond is such a great writer. I was reading one of his novels, and he was describing rain. And he was describing it so graphically. When I finished reading the novel, started outside, I went upstairs and looked for a raincoat and quite forgot that the sun was shining. He made me feel that it was raining outside. That was greatness in writing. And she said, why not V.S. Naipaul? He handles the English language so well. V.S. Naipaul is an East Indian who hates East Indians, West Indians, English, hates Indians, hates his own people, everybody else's people. Don't love nothing and nobody. But he handles the English language quite well. There is no humanity in anything he ever wrote. All right, now, let's start the lecture. Marcus Garvey is too important for delay. At first, in talking about Marcus Garvey, it would seem that I am talking away from the subject. But I will be talking directly on the subject all of the time. We need to place Marcus Garvey in proper focus. And to do this, we need to place the Caribbean people in proper focus. Therefore, we need to look at their here-ness in their now-ness. Since the election of Edward Seaga in Jamaica and the invasion of Grenada, there has been a major change in the Caribbean world and a change in an attitude toward Marcus Garvey. And one wonders if this change has made Marcus Garvey and his ideals safe among Caribbean people. One wonders if Marcus Garvey would be physically safe if he was alive today. He called for the unity and the redemption of the African world. We were not ready to listen then. There's wonder whether we are ready to listen now. He was not only ahead of his time, he was ahead of this time. There's an indication that the Caribbean people, in participation in the forthcoming Statute of Liberty 100th anniversary, might be missing the point. There is something at the present Schomburg collection called the immigration or voluntary immigration, indicating that the Caribbean people came here voluntarily, separating them from the black American who came on slave ships. They're missing the boat because all blacks came out of Africa on slave ships. The slave ship stopped in the Caribbean and dropped those off and continued to the United States and dropped some off. The fact that the Caribbeans came later is another point. And except for someone pointing a finger and said, I'll take that one instead of that one, any Caribbean could be a black American and any black American could be a Caribbean. So no one needs celebrate and no one need to boast. All of us are victims of the same historical experience with variations. And no one need to boast or participate in the variation as though one is radically different from the other. The supreme test is this: can you pass the taxicab test? There was an argument in one of my classes at Hunter College between black Americans, Africans, and Caribbeans. And I told all of them, and I especially picked those with black faces, not brown or almost whites or yellows. I said, I want all of you to go down, and I want each one of you to count the number of cabs that pass you by before one stops. Don't open your mouth. I want to hear no accent. Just stand there and tell me how many cabs pass before one picks you up. 21 cabs on an average before anyone picked up any one of them. The Caribbean, the African, and the Afro-American. And when they came up, I said, I don't want to hear no damn argument about who came from what island, who came from Georgia, or who came from what part of Africa. You are all African people, and that damn bigoted cab driver is a better Pan-Africanist than all three of you. And once we understand that we belong to the same African family, no matter what island you came from, what part of Georgia you came from, or what part of Africa you came from. And that is the essential message that Marcus Garvey was trying to get across to you. One God, one aim, one destination. And when you can't understand that, you betray Marcus Garvey. And that is the essential message. All right, now, let us proceed. What we have to understand with those who are participating in the separate charade around the Statue of Liberty that hasn't got a damn thing to do with any of us, that a decade after the arrival of the Statue of Liberty, was a decade of anti-liberty all over the world for African people everywhere. Let's take 1886 and let's take the decade after 1886 and look at it all over the world and see what that decade means in relationship. In Africa, 1886 was the end of the long colonial wars and the politics of exile. The Asante Wars was coming to a close. 1886, the British burned down or tried to burn down the city of Kumasi. 1885, they exiled the King Prempeh. Not only exiled him, but made him submit and forced him literally to kiss the shoes of the British governor along with his mother. Humiliated one of the most illustrious kings in all Africa. Around the other end of Africa, they had broken the last of the great Zulu kings of Africa were being exiled. In East Africa, the Uganda kings were being betrayed by the Catholic Church and the British Church and the Arabs. Something else we haven't been able to do. So, all right, in West Africa, Soumaré Touré, Sékou Touré's grandfather, was fighting his wars to stop the advancement of the French. In North Africa, the Rif Wars to stop the French in North Africa was still being fought. Further down the Guinea coast, Ousmane de Torador was fighting the French in the Muslim wars. In the Sudan, the second Mahdi, Khalifa Abdul Hayya, was at war with the British. All right, the British were fighting to retake the Sudan. And this fight to retake the Sudan was after the death of the Mahdi, and this war was reported by a young British reporter named Winston Churchill in a remarkable book called The River War. When a British butcherer, Kitchener, went in to allegedly defend England's honor and killed 50,000 Sudanese in one evening, and Churchill boasts of this in the book. We killed 50,000 of the beggars in one evening. Africans were being killed all over the world. 1884, a degenerate Belgian king, Leopold, called a meeting, and all the thieves who had not had enough muscle, who had not taken part of Africa, began to cut up the rest of Africa, and therefore they got the Congo. The French got more of equatorial Africa. The Germans got 4 pieces. Southwest Africa, now called Namibia, Tanzania, the parts of the Cameroons, and Togo. So after the arrival of the Statue of Liberty was an anti-liberty campaign against African people all over the world. Okay? Here in the United States, what is happening? Booker T. Washington, the betrayal of the Reconstruction, and the part of the liberty that we had won was going. and blacks who had won the right to serve in Congress were physically being driven out of public office. And near the end of the century, 1895, Booker T. Washington made his famous Atlanta speech. This speech was interpreted as though he endorsed Jim Crow. A rash of Jim Crow laws came into being 1895, and most of the Jim Crow laws came into being between 1895 and 1900. 1906, beginning of vast race riots, the Atlanta race riots, the riots against black soldiers in Brownsville, Texas, the famous Brownsville raid. Organizations coming to be, all right, the NACP, born 1909. No, you just count those 10 years after the arrival of the Statue of Liberty. All over the world, we were catching hell. So what kind of liberty did it mean to black people? Any place. In the Caribbean fight for constitutional government fell on deaf ears. And the reform that the British promised was not delivered, to the point that British governors of Caribbean islands had the right to even take their gambling debts out of the treasury of the islands, and did. Now, what in hell are you participating in the celebration for? What does the Statue of Liberty mean to you? We are forever misinterpreting history. All right. Marcus Garvey was growing up in Jamaica, dreaming and hoping and seeing things much clearer than most people see things. Growing up, learning, growing up, looking out at sea, dreaming of ships, learning his craft, shaping his destiny. Ultimately, he would begin to leave Jamaica. He would make his first trip outside of Jamaica. He would make a tour at a young age outside of Jamaica. And indicative of his skill, everywhere he went, he found a job, doing something. Watchman, running a newspaper. He was not unemployed any place. This is a person with so much native talent that everywhere he went, he inquired about the conditions of his people, a born leader with wild confidence in himself. This is his exception. Growing up in an island highly color conscious then and now, because the color had made a deal with England to the point where England had granted the colored special job categories that to some extent they still hold, special professional privileges to some extent they still hold, literally creating a brown society and an almost white society with job categories. He came from a society of craftsmen that didn't have to apologize for his blackness. And he had confidence in himself and his skill to the point where he did not have to cater to anyone based on color. He had skills over and above that and rose above it. He had this kind of confidence, and this would help him through life. And one of the reasons why many times he overplayed the color scheme in the United States is that the color scheme in the United States operated differently. The crude white men in the United States put all the color gradations in one bag and put one word on the bag: nigger. No separate category, no separate neighborhood, no separate job classification. If you was poor, you all lumped together. Because Europe dumped its human garbage can into the New World. America got the worst of the garbage can. The lowest white persons of Europe hit the United States. And this is something most people don't take into consideration, that the black American got the worst white people on the face of the earth. And when you judge the black American, understand he got the worst of Europe to deal with. Now, none of them were good, but ours just happened to be the worst of the lot. And Garvey never took that into consideration when judging us. And the ones we had to deal with as against the ones they had to deal with. The ones he had to deal with were brutal with a little style. And our, well, no. In addition to misunderstanding the color scheme, he seemed to misunderstand the other social scheme of the whole matter. But no. And yet, from the beginning of his projection, his greatest support came from black America. All right, now, this moves too fast because what we have to deal with is Garvey's learning years, because he was a fast learner and he never took anything from a second rater. Like Malcolm X, he learned quickly and he never took from second raters. Now, going back to England, we have to deal with Garvey's departure from England, Garvey's attempt to find an organization in Jamaica. And when he went to England this first time, he came under the persuasion of an Egyptian of Sudanese descent, Duz Muhammad Ali. And he worked on the newspaper of Duz Muhammad Ali, and he read, and he went to classes in England, but he learned well. And he became the beneficiary of the fact that several conferences had been held in England, and one of the conferences was the World's Conference on Race. That conference had been held in 1911. Now Garvey read these papers in these different conflicts dealing with race. These different conflicts dealing with race, especially the racial views of an Englishman of a world-famous sociologist named Adler, and the racial views of Du Bois. Now, these men had come from all over the world. Then, in the pages of Duz Muhammad's newspaper, the African Times and Orient Review, there appeared an editorial. The editorial was quoting, hear me well now, a white black nationalist. This was a man named Booth. He was in what is now Malawa, then called Nyasaland. This man had grown dissatisfied with the whites in Southern Africa, and he went through Southern Africa exposing them to the blacks. And he said, to the blacks, whites cannot be trusted. And he was angry with the missionaries, and he was exposing the missionaries to the blacks and telling the blacks that they can't be trusted. They're all a bunch of fakers. And when the blacks asked him, can you be trusted? You're white. To his everlasting credit, he said no. Me too. And he raised the question, Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. That's where Garvey got the statement. From the editorial about Booth and Duz Muhammad's paper, the African Times, Orient Review. Garvey never took anything from second-rate people. And when he took it, he molded over and wrote around it and added to it, theorized around it to a point where it became his own. And the world forgot Booth, who started it. Now, when Garvey came back to Jamaica, he tried to find the UNIA that failed twice in Jamaica. It would not grow in that soil. Because first, the political atmosphere of Jamaica, partly bastardized by the color scheme. Garvey could not sell blackness in the Jamaican soil of that day, and I question seriously whether he could sell it in the Jamaican soil of this day. But now, Garvey would become an admirer of the theory of Booker T. Washington. And he would correspond with Washington with the hope of coming to the U.S. to develop the funds to build a school like Tuskegee in Jamaica. He did not find the means in 1915, and when he came to the U.S. in 1916, Booker T. Washington was dead. When he contacted the people at Tuskegee, he could not get along or communicate too well with Major Moulton and the people Booker T. Washington left behind. So he came back to New York and began to put an organization together. And what we have to do is to look at Marcus Garvey in this way. But you will not understand Marcus Garvey in the failure, in his failure in Jamaica, without understanding the Caribbean antecedents of Marcus Garvey. To understand the Caribbean antecedents of Marcus Garvey, his failure in Jamaica and his failure in the Caribbean in general seems without logic. Because the Caribbeans had a fighting heritage, a revolutionary heritage, stronger than the United States, longer than the United States. Why didn't his seed grow in that soil? And yet it did not. And probably will not grow today. Those specks of dust in the Caribbean Sea, those islands, once challenged and changed the world. What changed them? It was these islands that furnished the economy, that pulled Europe out of the lethargy of the Middle Ages, that gave Europe the economy to come out of those plagues and famines. It was also those islands that had the most enduring slave revolts in the history of the world. What happened to that spirit that failed to effect a wedding with the dreams of Marcus Garvey? It's one of the dilemmas in history. It's one of the dilemmas in history. Why did it grow on this soil and not that soil? The soil that produced the Tucson Lovature should have been right for God. When you look at the Jamaican soil that had longer revolts than Haiti, that produced the Maroon revolts, Man Song and other rebels, I mean, Jamaica had revolts lasting 200 years. The revolts in Haiti generally really was over a 20-year period. And that's the success of the Haitian revolt. A parlay, like, and step by step, over 20 years. But Haiti had that damn fool Napoleon to deal with, but the British could release soldiers to stop the Jamaican revolt. And Napoleon was so tired of so many other things, by the time he could release soldiers, it was too late. And Haiti was the beneficiary of a fortunate circumstance in history. Jamaica was not. You have to study the entire spectrum to understand that. See that, but to understand, you have to study Marcus Garvey's Antecedents in the Caribbean. Now you have to look at his antecedents in the United States in order to understand why ideas grew here and not in the Caribbean, and would not grow in the Caribbean today, and might grow here today, or might not grow here today, might not grow in Africa, might not grow in either one of the places today. Because Nkrumah preached them and preached them well. And yet Nkrumah, who preached them well, was overthrown by anti-Garveyistic forces. This has to be taken into consideration. We have to understand the counter forces within the African world. Now let's look at the antecedents in the United States.
Yeah, this is the Culture Nation FM.
Let's look at the ideas that preceded Garvey in the United States and how the scene was being prepared for Marcus Garvey 100 years before his emergence in the United States. Let's look at the first half of the 19th century. The slave rebel, the black free man, and let's look at the beneficiary in the United States of the Caribbean thinkers who did not function in the Caribbeans and might not have been able to function in the Caribbean. Look at Prince Hall from Jamaica, from Barbados. Why didn't he find the Masons in Barbados, where he came from? Look at Peter Ogden from Antigua. Came here and found the Odd Fellows. Why didn't he find the Odd Fellows in Antigua? He came here and found the Odd Fellows. Look at Robert Campbell, John Russell, who edited Freedom's Journal. He's from Jamaica. He edited no paper in Jamaica. He edited one here. Robert Campbell went with Delaney to search for a place for the settlement, Abakuta in Nigeria. Caribbean figures joined with African American figures and thought that both of our problem was one and the same, and they were right. Now look at the Caribbeans who left the Caribbean, joined with black Americans as a union to pave the way for a back to Africa movement almost 100 years before the arrival of Marcus Garvey. Look at the Caribbean figures come here to build an antecedent to Marcus Garvey 100 years before Marcus Garvey got here. Left out of history. And some of them, the first half of the 19th century. Now let's look at the second half of the 19th century. Some of them still functioning. Then we'll look at perhaps Singleton's second half, looking for internal settlement in the United States. Then the external settlement, the Chief Sam movement. It's a Ghanaian named Chief Sam who said some boats would come to pick us up. Many blacks sold all of their furniture and everything and gathered at Galveston, Texas and other spots waiting for Sam's boats to come and take them back to Africa, and Sam's boats never showed up, of course, but it wasn't his fault. The people welched on the boats never got there. But the Chief Sam's movement was a big movement. This was a Back to Africa movement. And Bishop Turner's movement. All of these were movements that appeared generations before Marcus Garvey. End of the century, the riots early in the century, Marcus Garvey arrived in the country during and soon after the World War I. He made his first national tour, 1917, during the riots. 1919, the Red Summer, riots in Chicago. Famous and tragic riots in St. Louis. Now Marcus Garvey's message is getting across. He goes to Chicago and tells blacks that they don't want you here. Now Africa, our home, let's get our own boats and sail back on our own steam. Blacks in the Caribbean may not have wanted to listen, but we listen to anything now. Yes. Can you understand why we would listen? Right. This ain't happening in Jamaica. They burning in East St. Louis. They bring bonfires and throwing black children into the fire. Yeah. This is not happening in. We are willing to listen. Because certain things are happening to us that's not happening to any other African people in the world. Newton Baker, Secretary of Treasury, told black soldiers, some of them being lynched in their uniform, that your lot is not going to change by virtue of you fighting in the war. Du Bois has issued a statement. Let's close our ranks and help America save the war. Du Bois goes and investigates the condition of the blacks, only to discover that on the battlefield, many blacks wounded are left there to die because Red Cross won't touch a black body. And he want to take the statement back by closed ranks. Closed ranks for what? Now you can see how the atmosphere in the United States is produced to receive a Marcus Garvey, different from that in the Caribbean. But we are willing to listen by virtue of our condition that is distinctly different from the condition in the Caribbean. We are ready by virtue of what we have to deal with as a difference, because the British have made some fake promises in the Caribbean. And the British are making schoolmasters and constables and, and clerks in the court and, You got the superficial appearance of nation, but we don't even have the superficial. And this superficialness give them the illusion of nation. We don't even have the illusion. So we are willing. Marcus Garvey said, "Come on, let's get out of the ships and get the hell out of here." Yeah. We said, all right. But what we have to deal with as a difference, because the British have made some fake promises in the Caribbean, and the British are making schoolmasters and constables and and clerks in the court, and you got the superficial appearance of nation, but we don't even have the superficial. And this superficialness give them the illusion of nation. We don't even have the illusion. So we are willing. Marcus Garvey said, "Come on, let's get out of the ships and get the hell out of here." Yeah. We said, all right. It made us appreciate a Marcus Garvey over and above that of the Africans and the Caribbeans. And most people who write about Marcus Garvey hadn't seen that. And particularly because 8 or 9 Black American aristocrats wrote the government by getting Marcus Garvey out of here. They have interpreted that as meaning all America, all Black America betrayed and wanted Marcus Garvey out. Most Black Americans with any understanding of Marcus Garvey was for Marcus Garvey. Yes. And still are. Yes. And so we have to take it beyond conversation. We have to look at the man. We have to look at that convention of 1920, one of the largest, probably the largest convention of Black people ever held anywhere at any time. 30,000 people in Old Madison Square Garden, and in turning away 30,000. Power that frightened the government of the United States. And when you go through the files of the FBI, he was the most watched human being by the government of the United States ever. In the files of the United States government, after they censor and do you know what's left? The government files that are left. You know, if you purchase the files under the Freedom of Information, you know it's $1,400. The pages that are left, and they crossed out probably 2/3 of them. It was probably under surveillance more than any other single man. Now, after this convention, he was probably under more trouble, in more trouble. I think the steamship line was built too hurriedly, and because he did not examine the ships, most of the ships were poorly bought, for seaworthiness, and they gutted ships mostly that probably been used by bootleggers for running rum back and forth in the Caribbean areas. And you couldn't do that today. I mean, now all ships you had to be certified for seaworthiness. And in that day, you could have had a ship certified for $50, and because Garvey didn't want to be bothered with the white people certifying anything for him, he just bought them, you know, and he just bought them and paid the money, and you know. But now a ship have to be certified, and the electronics have to be certified, and whether you like white people or not, a person who whips is white or not, and whether you like it or not, that's the way it's done. Or you don't get the ship. And the person that certifies the ship is responsible if something goes wrong. So therefore, if something goes wrong with electronics, the person that's certified can be sued or lose their job. Well, anyway, some of the sea captains betrayed Marcus Garvey, and some of them stole money from Marcus Garvey, and several went into real estate with money stolen from Marcus Garvey. And but Marcus Garvey was an honest human being. He did not live elaborately. He lived in a very simple apartment, and he was not a big liver as a person. That's a separate thing in itself. And that determine the future of a man is sometimes determined by the wives he chooses to stand beside him, and he chose two good women. And in the final analysis, they didn't particularly like each other, because Amy Ashwood, who started out with him and helped him build the movement, chose Amy Jakes as his secretary, who he finally married Amy Jakes, and that angered Amy Ashwood, who wasn't too happy about losing him. And she called Amy Jakes some names which were kind of unprintable, as almost any woman would when she loses a man she wants. The research on the book that I did on Marcus Garvey, and I decided that I would not print these things, that some things need to be left out of history. I purposely left it out. What those two women said about each other. I interviewed both of them. I had 36 hours of Amy Jakes on tape. And I didn't include any of it in the book, except her political views. And Amy Ashwood's tape was, I gave it to someone to copy, and they pretended they lost it, and I think he was a liar. I think he's got it, and it was the only tape in existence. So it's only 8 hours, but it's broadcasting company, and he said that someone took it. I think he got it. I think it represents the disrespect of a brother to it. And but anyway, it just taught me a cruel lesson. But no, the main thing is that the argument over the ships, the mismanagement of the funds, led to his imprisonment in Atlanta. And this led to a pardon and deportation by Coolidge. Pardon by Coolidge and deportation. And after deportation, the movement began to decline. His return to Jamaica. The second, when he tried to rule the movement from Jamaica, was not successful. He ran briefly for public office, and that wasn't successful. He was elected once, and the second time, on a technicality, he was not re-elected. And he went back back to his trade to pay off his debts and decided to go to London. And when he departed for London, newspapermen got around him and wanted to know if he had a statement to make. He said, yes, gather around. Yes, I got a statement. Listen, write this down. They all prompted to write the statement down. And his great departing statement before he went to London is a ridiculous country. End of statement. Now, his years in London, the editing of the Black Man magazine, were years of sadness, years when he highly critical of the Italian-Ethiopian War, critical of Haile Selassie for leaving, years of ill health, years of when he came to Canada when he could, and people would go to Canada and see him. He used to come maybe every other year. As a stringer reporter, I had Venice and saw him. He was angry and bitter and rather obnoxious and disappointed and somewhat offensive, accusing everybody of betraying him. And he was probably right. And I tried to understand that man who had dreamed of turning the world around and who had invested so much in the hope of a people, and now asking people why didn't they collect the basic monies for the subscription to the magazine, like $6 or $7 that they supposed to collect and had not collected, and reduced to. It was a sad occasion, and sometimes I regretted that I had gone, but it was the first and only time I laid eyes on Marcus Garvey. And while I regretted having seen a great man in this condition, it was at least the one opportunity in my life to have seen him. And I never corresponded with him, but he would go back and talk in Hyde Park. But this man and his hopes and his dreams was to change our world around. And he would inspire, and in Nkrumah, and he would inspire most of the African leaders. Now, the political meaning of his life for today is that everyone who has dreamed and hoped been able to avoid Marcus Garvey, what he meant to the Caribbean islands, what he meant to the African world. And if we're ever to be anything whole as a people, we have to come back to this man and his bold dreaming. And everyone who has said anything to our people meaningfully have said, in essence, part of what Marcus Garvey has said repeatedly. Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will.
Fiery opinion, thought-provoking, always smoking, lyrics like a bazooka. You are listening to Muta Baruka.
I came to Brooklyn early in the day to make an appraisal of the work of a distinguished artist that I've known for 50 years. He was somewhat despondent because he was a friend of the radical years of the Depression, the fine Caribbean artist, And we were together in those Depression years, and when we were all so hopeful. Under a great teacher, Willison Huggins, who allegedly jumped off George Washington Bridge out of frustration. And because we loved him, we didn't believe it. That's not the point I'm driving toward. His point to me, because I came over to his artwork, one of our major unrecognized artists, is what was it all about? What did we do it for? 2 generations of struggle and wishing and fighting to face a generation of young people who don't seem to care, and older people who don't seem to care and don't seem to know. We started the Harlem History Club. We was with an activist called Sufi. That's not the point I'm driving toward. His point to me, because I came over to his artwork, one of our major unrecognized artists, is what was it all about? What did we do it for? 2 generations of struggle and wishing and fighting to face a generation of young people who don't seem to care, and older people who don't seem to care and don't seem to know. We started the Harlem History Club. We was with an activist called Sufi. We had dignity and respect, and had youth, and now Reed is old and worn and barely got enough strength to go up and down the stairs in his own home, and where's it all went, and what was it all for? And we're facing a generation who's asking questions about a cop-out generation that's not delivering anything. We never heard of crack, and we didn't know what marijuana looked like or smelled like. This is a dialogue between 2 men 50 years later, both poor, committed to the salvation of our own people, both young Garveyites, trying to see what we could do to redeem our own people. Now we're asking, what was it all for? We put it on the line. What kind of work did we do? Scrubbing floors, porters, elevator operators in hotels, taking the insults, surviving however we could. Now 50 years later, we meet. Here's a former director in a major advertising agency. His family grown and gone. His wife's gone. He's had 2. I've had 2. Sure and gone. Mine's about gone. None of his wives thoroughly understood what his life was about, none of mine either. We could have done a whole lot of things with our lives. We could have said yes to the right people. Both of us could have been rich, because that's what we wanted. We could have copped out and walked down the easy street. We could have rode the glamour route. We went down the commitment route, trying to save a people. Amen. All right. Now, what's this got to do with the speech? Probably nothing. Really? Probably everything and nothing. 50 years is a long time in the life of two people. When you've known a person 50 years and you meet and start a dialogue, say, what was it all about? What did we two people do with our lives? We were committed to our people. We served well. We served honestly. Neither one of us are rich or poor. And it was the irony of it. Both of us have a brownstone house. Stone house, about the same plumbing problem. But the main thing, what have we done with these last 50 years? What have we seen? We've seen two generations parade before us. What have they learned? What have they committed to? We started out in the active years, the Italian-Ethiopian War. We thought Africa would be liberated by now. We've seen it go to the door of liberation and literally turn around or be. We've seen the two branches of the African world, Afro-American, Caribbean, and Africa, get to the brink of liberation and let itself be turned around. Literally, we've seen Garvey betrayed. We've seen him betrayed by his own people. We've seen his dream turned around. And tragically, in his own country, of people who will elect a Seaga, producer Marcus Garvey, and elect a Seaga, a white man from Boston, have problems. Call him a Lebanese if you want to. This is a job artist and a con man. Came to Jamaica to be elected. Learn Jamaican folklore, learn Jamaican dialogue, studied Jamaicanese, studied the politics of Jamaica, studied the folklore and the ways of the Jamaican people, jived his way into the politics, and got elected. No black people. The folk ways, the color ways, their color preferences, and rolled in on their prejudices. Knew that Jamaica was one of the most color stratified islands in the Caribbean. All of this has to do with something. If Marcus Garvey were alive today and ran for election in Jamaica, he would lose. If Marcus Garvey were alive today and ran for election in Bedford-Stuyvesant, he would win.